Okay, now we are going to look at how to calculate the standard deviation. We have looked at how to calculate the mean. We calculated using just 3 variables, but now we are going to look at the standard deviation. Okay, remember the formula for standard deviation is this one. I'm just going to drag it and then put it here. So now we are focusing on standard deviation. Already I've explained that this sign is the sum of. So let's say we are given the same data that we have before, of which is this one. Start with this. Oh, let's start with the other one because it's 1, 3, and 5. We are given that our data set is 1, is 3, and 5. And we ask to calculate the standard deviation. So how do we go about it? You say S for standard deviation for a sample is the square root of the sum of x values minus the mean. This is the mean. Then you square that divided by n minus 1. What I like to do is to insert a table. Okay, let's say it's only 3. Let's do this. So here I will have my x values. And then here I will say x value minus the mean. And then here I will have the x value minus the mean. And then I will square it. Then I'll find my values. Let's do this for this example. So here you are given that your x value is 1, the other one is 3, the other one is 5. Then we had already calculated what the mean was. So from our first example, the mean was 3. So you say x value minus the mean. So it's 1 minus 3. Then also here you have 3 minus 3. Here you're going to have 5 minus 3. Where do we get this 3? It was the mean value that we calculated by saying the sum of all values divided by n, of which is a number of observation. What is 1 minus 3? It's minus 2. Then 3 minus 3 is 0. 5 minus 3, it is 2. So here, what are we going to do? We take the value that we got from the previous column, of which is negative 2. We ensure that we put brackets to make sure that when we square that number, everything is taken into effect. So we square that. Say we square, how am I going to use my square? We square that. What is negative 2 squared? It gives you a 4. Then here you have a 0 squared, giving you still a 0. Still here you will have 2 squared, which is this 2. You square it, then you find a positive 4. Here is the sum of all values. You don't even have to have that column. So if you say 4 plus 0 plus 4, it should give you a 8. So what did we do? Calculating the standard deviation, and the formula is the sum of all x values minus the mean, square it divided by n minus 1, and you put a square root for everything. So what did I do? I started with the x values. I said 1, 3, and 5, of which is our values that we're given for this sample. Then we have x minus the mean. X is the x value of which is 1 minus 3, which we've calculated the mean to find it to be negative 2. 3 minus 3 giving us a 0, then a 5 minus 3 giving us a 2. Then what do you do after that? You square all the numbers that you would have gotten here. If you want, you don't even have to separate these two. You can just jump straight to this one. So we have negative 2, you square it, giving a 4, a 0 squared, giving you a 0, a 2 squared, giving you a 4. And then we add all these numbers together that we found from here. We found it to be 8. So from this, we have found this part of which it says the sum of x values minus the mean, then you square it, which is 8 now. Now you have to find the portion of n minus 1. What is n minus 1? Remember, n is the number of observations that we have. So the number of observations that you have, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3. There will be 3 minus 1, giving us a 2. So now we are able to find our standard deviation to be the square root of 8, the square root of 8, then you divide that by n minus 1, which is our 2. Let's use our calculator since we're not using a scientific one here. Let's start with saying 8 divided by 2, it gives you a 4. Then you say the square root of that number is going to be 2. Sorry, let's do that again. So you have 8 divided by 2, which gives you a 4. 8 divided by 2 give you a 4. A square root of 4, it will be 2. So your standard deviation would be equals to 2. Okay, let's do for the second sample, which this was the second sample. Let's see if we can be able to do that. This is our second sample. It's 1, 5, 8, 2, and 6. And then we still want to find a standard deviation. So what do? We put still this table. Let's just copy to save time. And then I put it here. I just will erase the values. Just going to drag everything down. Then erase these values. Okay. Then the values we have here is 1. We have 5. You can put it ascending order. Doesn't matter. And then we have 2. Then you have your 6. Then the x, it will be 1 minus, what was the mean for this? Remember when we were calculating the mean, we found the mean to be 4.4. So our mean will be 1 minus 4.4. Then here also it's 5 minus 4.4. Here is going to be 8 minus 4.4. You're going to have 2 minus 4.4. Then you have 6 minus 4.4. Let's get the calculations. So if you say 1 minus 4.4, it's going to give you a negative 3.4. Want to make sure that everything's okay and to see me calculating. Then 5.5 minus 4.4, obviously, it's going to be 0.6. Then also the same for 8 minus 4.4, it gives you a 3.6. 3.6. Then you have your 2 minus your 4.4, giving you a negative 2.6. 2.6. Okay, it has to be negative. Then you have your 6 minus your 4.4, giving you a 1.6. 1.6. So what do? You get the sum of everything here. I don't just want to use the formulas. Let's just make sure we understand. With negative 3.4, you add a 0.6, then you add a 3.6. Let's do it again. Negative 3.4 plus 0.6, then plus 3.6 plus a negative 2.6, then you add a 1.6. Then you get your answer to be 0.2. Is it a positive? No, it's a negative number. So you can just put here, just for your own sake, you just put negative 0.26. Then here, remember the most important, we need to make sure that we square all of this. You square this, you find your answer. You get 0.6, you square that, you get your answer. Same thing here, 3.6, you square that, you get your answer. Then also the same, negative 2.6, then you square that, then you find your answer. 1.6, you square that, then you find your answer. After you found all the answers here, you need to add those answers together to get one value. And from that value, what do? You go back to your formula, which says then the square root of all the values divided by n minus 1. And because we have 5 as n, it will be 5 minus 1. Do these calculations and see if you can be able to find the answer and drop your correct answer on the chat. Thank you so much.